Donda. What's up, everybody? BobbyFoster here. Right now, we are going over Donda by Kanye West. I took some time to make this review. There is a lot in this album that, even though I've heard it a few times now, it's going to take multiple listens, years to really let it sit with you. See, this is the thing. Even though I'm making this review, I'm coming with the fact that this is still an early review. I feel like when we watch album reviews, we take it as like a final opinion. Now, music sits and music grows. These things that I say today could change next year. I'm not being a hypocrite if I change my mind on certain things. Like, the music's gonna sit with me, I'm gonna change my mind. But as of right now, this is kind of like my initial review of the album. So let's just get into it. And you know what it is. This is Foster the Knowledge, where we react to music, break down music, talk about life, and have fun doing it. If you haven't liked this video, please hit that subscribe, that bell, hit that like button so we can continue on this journey of music together. And with all that being said, let's get into this review. First things first, I don't think I can separate the album from the live events. I feel like the live events were a part of how we consumed the album, the expectations we had of the album, etc. So I'm going to be talking about the live events as I go over this review. So the very first song we have is the infamous Donda chant. And to me, I think there was like theories about this. It's like Kanye's mom's heartbeat and things. I don't necessarily believe all that. I think it's simple why this is the starting track. It's saying exactly why Kanye is making this album. When you lose someone close to you, especially a parent, it's constantly on your mind. That's how I see it. Donda. I see it more of his thoughts. Like, this is something that's been on his mind ever since he lost his mom, that he wanted to do. He wanted to probably drop an album to work through his thoughts on everything concerning his mom, to honor his mom. It's probably something that's constantly been on his mind. That's what I get with the repetition of his mom's name on the intro track. I also feel like it kind of puts you in a trance going into the album. It's very jarring, right? It's, say you're listening to a different album prior, a different song. As soon as you put this album on, Donda. So it like, okay, this is the album I'm in. Then moving into Jail, the second track, I think that was genius sequencing. The reason why is because of the live event. Prior to the album dropping, Kanye replaced Jay-Z's verse with a DaBaby verse on the live event. And everyone was like, what are you doing, Kanye? Like, I really hope Jay-Z's verse is still on that song on the album. So for that to be the first real song of the album and then Jay-Z ends up appearing on it, I feel like is amazing marketing. I really do. I feel like that's really dope marketing, because it kind of puts you on a high as a fan if you were paying attention to the live events and you're really hoping that Jay-Z's verse is still on there. So that's how I felt when I was listening to it. I feel like storyline wise, it's also a great song to start off with, because you're really starting with this concept of I'm a sinner, right? And then you start the arc of sinner to saved by the end of the album. So I feel like it's a great song to start off with. Not to mention that Jay-Z had an amazing verse. And I just really like the concept of the ownership of sin and mistakes. And like, yeah, take me to jail. God's gonna post my bail. Like, humans can't help me. Only God can help me with my sins, right? I feel like that was a dope message to start the project off of. I feel like the story expands moving into God Breathed. It has this just dark. The beginning of the album is so dark, right? And I feel like it has this dark, grimy beat, but on the song, Kanye is basically showing how he is a vessel of, God, basically God's word, the word of God, and that this is what this album is going to be about. That he's not following his plan, he's following God's plan. And that's very apparent through all of these tracks. Even the features understood the assignment, and even the features were really, really good about staying on theme, basically showing how they've sinned and how God has their back. There was a lot of testimony on the album through Kanye and the features. And so I'm glad that, usually when you have this many features, it can seem scattered. I thought everyone stayed on theme pretty well. I think one of the highlight lines of the project and this song is when Kanye says, fall far too often. Yeah, call God, but don't call enough. Fall down, but don't fall in love. I know God is all in us. I feel like it just shows the importance of how Kanye feels about his spirituality and God. I feel like it just has this level of, this is the lifestyle I'm living now. These are my beliefs. This is like, it just has that level of importance to me. Moving into Off the Grid, this is definitely one of the highlights of the album for me by far. This song is amazing. This gotta be like one of the best Kanye songs, period. I really thought I'm not 100% sure how to say his name, Fivio Foreign. I thought he came in and just demolished the track. I was like, wow, this is a standout verse. And it is. But Kanye then came in and just gave probably one of his best verses of all time. And I think one of the best lines from the album is on this song as well. I ain't delivering heavenly messages just for the hell of it. I feel like that line just has so many layers, not even just on a literary level. On a spiritual level, I feel like that line just has so many layers. The concept of the hell of it just means so many different things. That means, just because, like, I'm not just saying this for nothing, right? But then also you have that contrast between heavenly and hell. So like, what is the hell of it? Is that money? Is that fame? Is it ego? All these different kind of things. And he said, I'm not doing it just for the hell of it. I'm not doing it for these earthly things. I'm doing it because I'm preaching the good word, right? And I just find that to be such a dope line, especially like with the context of how people view Kanye, being super egotistical, and all that kind of stuff. It kind of speaks against those stereotypes people put on Kanye. But yeah, Off the Grid is just such a highlight, such a highlight from the album. And as far as we're moving along theme wise here, every song is really honestly just testimony, and it's just self-awareness and honesty and all these things, and God can fix everything that gets messed up. If I surrender, right? I feel like that is literally like the lyrics for like even so many of the features. Like, that's just the point of the album, Sinner to Saved. Moving into Hurricane with Lil Baby's verse. First of all, Hurricane is also just a moment. Weeknd's vocals, and then that choir kicks in. Oh my goodness. But Lil Baby snap. Lil Baby's been going in on Legends songs, and I'm just like, I can't wait to see the trajectory this guy has in his career. It's like, but the bar that just stood out to me from Lil Baby on this song, wrote my hardest wrongs, and the crazy part, I ain't have no pen. Whoo! Lil Baby's come out and said he doesn't, write his raps. He punches in. And so he's saying, wrote my hardest wrongs, and the crazy part, I ain't have no pen. So he's talking about, he talks about all this on record, but he didn't write any of it. It just came off the top. But then also, I feel like he's kind of saying like he's a product of his environment. Like, these wrongs have been written, but he didn't necessarily write them, right? And I feel like that's deep. I think the way Kanye approached his verse, it was just so catchy, right? Kanye had a few verses on this project that were just catchy to listen to. This song, even though every song is about kind of like turning your life over to God for him to make it better, this song I feel like is kind of the first song that has this hopeful tone to it, if you will, right? Like the Weeknd's part, no more dark for me, I know you're watching me. And that it kind of has this hopeful tone to it. This collab was fire. Loved Hurricane. Praise God is just a moment. It's a moment for Baby Keem specifically in my book. I feel like Baby Keem spazzed on here. And then the weekend he had, especially with Family Ties coming out with Kendrick, he just had a weekend for himself. But Baby Keem snap. The line from him that's just like, ooh, it's on theme for the project, dope bar. Y'all treat your Lord and Savior like renter's insurance. That's a bar. But even like Tyler, the Creator, commented on this verse. I've seen a few famous people comment on this verse talking about how they loved it so much. So that was the highlight to me on that. I love the concept of Jonah. I like how Kanye got all these Chicago artists on this song, because this is thematically about Donda, right? And it's about Chicago and his upbringing and everything like that. So I love that it was a Chicago collab effort. I love that. Vori killed his part. Lil Durk killed his part. Kanye did great. I felt like there was so many, and we saw how the iterations of the songs changed through the live events if you were paying attention. I just feel like the final product of a lot of these just goes to show that the editing process was well done for this project. I was seeing a lot of critics saying that these songs felt incomplete. I don't know how they feel. I don't know if they were paying attention to the live stream. We saw how they were feeling more and more complete every single live event. So I personally don't feel like the end product of Donda feels incomplete at all. It feels very fleshed out. It's very thematic. There's a story arc to the project. There's skits from Donda in there. They're like it feels like a very complete project. And the fact that it's 27 songs and Kanye still makes it seem cohesive, that should be praised. Cause it's not like these streaming type albums that have a whole bunch of songs just to get streams. This is like he had a lot to say about Donda, about God, about his city, about all these different kind of things. He had a lot to say. It took 27 tracks to do so, but they're all cohesive. Like there's not anything that necessarily stands out here except maybe one track, maybe the Pop Smoke song. We'll get to that one. That might be like the only song that kind of feels like out of place to me. Other than that, 26 of these songs feel good, right? And like if you take out the part twos and like just kind of see that as a deluxe kind of thing going on, you have 23 songs. So that means 22 of the 23 songs feel complete. I like that's good. I don't know what these critics were talking about that. I truly don't understand. And now we're back to Kanye being just super catchy. Okay, okay. The whole hook to okay, okay is just one of the catchiest things on the project to me. I thought his first verse may have been talking about, I'm not going to say no names, but he's beefing with a certain person at the moment. I feel like he was kind of mentioning that a little bit. I don't listen to Lil Yachty like that. I really don't. But his verse was amazing. I love the way he sounded on this song. It's like this defeated tone, a little bit of hope inside, which is like the concept of the project. It's like all these things gone wrong that God can right? And I feel like Lil Yachty just fit right into that. Going back to the catchy aspect, I thought Ruga's verse was really catchy. I feel like it fits well into this song. That's another thing that people should praise about this project. We see people like DJ Khaled get all these acts together and it just doesn't always feel right with who's collabing with who and all this kind of stuff. Kanye has so many collaborators and like barely anybody felt out of place on this whole entire project, right? And so that level of composition and the editing, I feel like is a skill and should be talked about. Now we move to Junior. Once again, just catchy. Junior wants to Nabi on my wrist. That whole thing, catchy, yo. Super catchy. And like, that's the thing. Like, there's so many layers to this album. There's like deep spiritual layers. There's introspective layers. The production's amazing. But he still was able to make it an album that sounds good just on like a superficial, plain level of just listening to it. Does it sound good? A lot of these songs sound good. The line that stuck out to me that I thought was just a genius line is, on the hook, Junior wants a knobby on my wrist, right? And so he's talking about wrist, and it's just fashion, right? It's this materialistic, superficial, whatever, right? But then he has a line at the end of the song. He says, God's time can't fit on a wrist. And it just kind of gives the whole, like what you're imagining is just like jewelry and something simple, a wrist and all this. It just gives it layers and context and theme and all this, and I thought it was fire. I was so hyped when I saw on the live event that Believe What I Say was going to be on the album. I heard this snippet when it dropped on Twitter, whenever that was, and I was like, I hope this is on the next Kanye project, because it was just so reminiscent of old Kanye. He had a long verse. Once again, on surface level, it just sounds good, but then when you're listening to what he's saying some good stuff. Like this is something that I feel like Kanye's been missing on some of his recent projects. Like Kanye's production, his songs, they usually sound good, but I feel like he was kind of missing the depth of his lyrics, right? Everything seems super, super simple, but having and I'm not saying he has like these super complex bars that are hard to break down, but there's a lot of layers to like what he's talking about a lot of time, like whether it's relationships with him and Kim, or with him and God, or him and his past. Like there's a lot of things that he's talking about that I appreciate. Like he even addressed his Twitter rants, right, with this line, people saying tweeting gonna make you die early. How about have my heart hurting? Hold it all inside, that can make you die early. And it just shows like, okay, like Kanye just needs to get these things off his chest. He has to express himself, right? And like that's very Kanye. But like that's what I'm saying. Like he's addressing all of these things that are kind of these elephants in the room, right? And I appreciate that. I like when people do that through their art. Now 24 is a whole moment. People say that 24 is this like turning point on the album where things start to lighten up a little bit, which I thought like my first and second listen, but the second half of the album is kind of dark too and pretty sad. So I don't think this is necessarily a turning point. I do think this is a song where we're getting a break. We're getting this is just like we're gonna be okay, right? We're gonna be okay, and we need that halfway through this project because the project is talking about a lot of pains, and so we need that break. Now we move to Remote Control. Once again, God is in control, right? This is the first, maybe second song on the album where I don't know how I feel about it as an individual song. I don't necessarily know how I feel about God Breathed after I've heard it a few times. Same thing with Remote Control. It hasn't necessarily been keeping my attention as I keep listening to it. I do think the hook is super catchy. Young Thug's verse, I'm not sure how I feel about it right now. Few listens into it. But I'll tell you what I do know. Moon is that joint. I don't care how you feel. When you put Moon on, you get relaxed. You get calm. Like that's just what Don Toliver's voice does on this joint. And then Kid Cudi comes in and it's just soothing. Like this is just soothing. See, this is why I feel like people feel like it's a turning point, because the first couple songs after 24 are kind of like, God got it on Remote Control, we don't have to worry, so it's a little bit soothing. Moon is very soothing. But then you kind of get into some songs later that I don't know if it's a turning point. But Moon is just a song I could leave on repeat, honestly. I like it. For real. Because then you move to Heaven and Hell, and it's not soothing, right? Heaven and Hell is kind of this stream of consciousness of him just getting out his feelings again. And it has this urgency to it. I do like the line on here with context involved, know the Lord's my bulletproof vest, because Kanye was seen like on his presidential campaign, like wearing the bulletproof vest. So it's kind of like a callback to that, which I thought that was dope. But yeah, this is a serious verse. Then we move into this beautiful Donda skit. Absolutely brings the album together. The line that stuck out to me on this song was, and you know I am my son's mother. That line usually works the opposite way. You know what I'm saying? It's more about like passing down that attitude, but she's saying like she learned from Kanye. And I do like, that's part of why I like this skit, is that it speaks to who Kanye is, as well as giving us insight into Donda. So it works on multiple levels. The highlight to me from Keep My Spirit Alive is definitely Conway the Machine's verse. It was just like a powerful testimony. very powerful testimony about him getting shot, saying that he wasn't going to be able to walk again. And then due to a miracle, basically he can walk again. And now he's running, right? And then also then I ran also may mean like running to God too. Like it may be about, oh, now I can run, but also it's because I ran to God. It might work on both of those levels. That stands out to me every single time I hear this song. Now on Jesus Lord, we're going to be talking about part 1 and 2, like on this one. So because even though there's like the added verses of part 2, what I have to say about this song is more of like the concept of the song rather than each person's verse. So we're going to nail out part 1 and part 2. This is, and this song, like, this is what I'm saying. I don't think 24 was a turning point because this song is on the second half of the album. If anything, this song should have been on the first half. This song is dark. This song is just grimy, realistic storytelling, which works really well with the concept of like, do you know anyone that needs Jesus? And like Kanye's like telling this story of just all this pain, right? And it just goes for everyone that was rapping on this. Like the concept of this song and the way that it's composed is just genius to me. It's very long, but I feel like it works because it gives this practicality of why people turn to Jesus, right? Why people turn towards religion. These real life, hard experiences where people need hope. It really takes these ethereal concepts of spirituality and God and like really grounds it in reality, especially like with Jay Electronica's verse with all of these historical references and things like that. Like it really grounds it in life. Moving into New Again, I can't tell you how many times I've been saying, "Hi, with a bunch of eyes ahead, with a bunch of wide." I've been saying that so much. Like, this is that catchiness I was talking about. This album is catchy sometimes, yo. The thing that sticks out on this song to me is like, this song contains the thesis of the album, in my opinion. The line, and it's repeated a lot on this song, what they vandalize, he'll evangelize. I feel like that is the whole thesis of the album. All of these wrongs we do as people, as society, all these things, like God has the ability to right those wrongs, and that we can all be new again as people, as societies, all these kind of things, like that rebirth. I feel like that's the whole point of the project. Now we move into the part of the album that I feel iffy about. I don't know how I feel about Pop Smoke being on the album, and there's already so much criticism about other artists that Kanye's put on this project. I think that's something that there are a lot of conversations around that are going to hinder a lot of people from enjoying this project. And I mean, they're valid criticisms. I feel like one that a lot of people aren't talking about necessarily is throwing this like posthumous song with Pop Smoke on here. I've recently, like within the last few months, started feeling weird about posthumous albums and verses and things like that. The reason being, it's like, who's to say if this artist would want to have been on this project, right? Also, it's kind of weird to me that like Kanye has no verse on here. Like it's literally just Pop Smoke being on here. It just feels weird to me personally. I don't really know how to express it because, like I said, this is a new feeling I'm starting to have recently. And even at that, the song doesn't really fit. I mean, this is like the one song I would cut out. Now we're moving into, I think, my personal favorite song off of the album so far, Lord, I Need You. This song is just an introspective look into Kanye and Kim's relationship, and also the added element of God being in that relationship as well. And I just feel like it's a beautiful song. It was probably like, this is, brand new. Like he just got divorced. This was probably hard to write. But I loved hearing kind of like his perspective on some of the things that were going on. The hope of God kind of restoring their relationship, not necessarily romantically, but just like being in relation with each other and their kids. And it was a nice note on the project. It was a very nice note on the project. I love that song. Then moving into probably my second favorite song on the album. So back to back, Pure Souls. Roddy Ricch absolutely destroyed this song. love it. I'm still thinking about the line, the truth is only what you get away with. I'm still thinking about that and pondering that and what that means for me. I feel like that's like probably the deepest line on the project. Like one line itself, I'm pondering that. I want to know what that means to me. I still don't know. That's a great line. But yeah, Kanye went into Roddy Ricch. Everyone's been saying he stole the show on this song, and I agree. He was a highlight of the album. But once again, that catchiness, the claps on the devil get behind me, I'm loose, I'm free. Yo, that whole part, fire. The absolute highlight on Come to Life is when the piano keys kick in, like halfway through the song. Y'all know what I'm talking about if you've heard the song. Those piano keys just gives life to the song, to the album, to like the journey. It was just like, this is it. This is like the moment. This is the coming to life for real. Like that's what the piano keys did to me. Like that was by far one, like those keys are by far some of the best parts of the album. And then, like I said, we can't take the live events out of this experience. And every time I hear No Child Left Behind, all I'm going to think is Kanye rising up to the top of that stadium. Like, it is a perfect conclusion to the album. He's done miracles on me, right? Once again, sums up the whole project. Moving into the part twos, I feel like the only thing to really comment on is the baby verse. I feel like rapping wise, he did really good. The thing that I'm iffy about is I don't know what his verse means. Like the song is about admitting your wrongs and then basically, you know, having God turn those wrongs around, paying your bail, getting you out of that guilt. I don't know if that's the route he was taking or not. I couldn't tell. So I don't necessarily know how to feel about the verse. I'm hoping like what he was meaning in his verse is that, you know, he is guilty for what he's done and God's gonna pay his bail. But it kind of almost seemed the opposite. I don't really know. I couldn't tell personally. We were talking about it in the Discord. There's different interpretations. But just because I like to see the good in people, I'm hoping he hopped on that song specifically, right? Because that's the whole point of the song, to say that, you know, maybe he's not going to answer to us humans, us other people, but he's going to work it out between him and his higher power. He's going to figure it out. That's what I'm hoping his verse meant. But I guess we'll see. Actions talk louder than words, right? But yeah, the other part twos, you know, none of the verses or anything kind of changed the theme or anything like that of the song. But like I say, even like with Jesus Lord Part 2, the importance of the song, like everything that I was talking about, like stays intact with the extra verses. So, you know, but yeah, this project from start to finish, it was very cohesive, very thematic. I felt like basically every single song fit. It's probably my favorite Kanye project in a while. I think something that needs to be talked about more is like how special, like it really is, how he was able to finally mix gospel and hip hop into his own sound and like actually nail it, right? Because he was trying that with like Jesus is King and everything. But this seems to be like he figured it out. And that's not easy to do, right? Going all the way back to Jesus Walks, you know, but I talk about God, my record won't get played. I'm happy that Kanye was able to make this album work through some things about his mom, about his relationship with Kim, with God, speak some positivity into the world. Like this album is very real, but it is also very hopeful that there's an avenue to make things right when things are going wrong, when we do wrong. And I feel like that's a very hopeful message for a lot of people out there. I think this whole thing is solid. I've listened to it a few times and it's, like I'm saying, front to back, has a lot of replay value. There was a lot of highlights from Kanye himself off the grid. His verse on there was probably one of his best verses he's ever done. There was a lot of highlights from the features, like all together. It was just a very, very, very good project. 100%. But y'all let me know how you feel about Donda in the comments. And you know what it is. This is Foster the Knowledge, where we react to music, break down music, talk about life, and have fun doing it. If you haven't liked this video, please let subscribe, that bell, hit that like button so we can continue on this journey of music together. Till next time, I'll see y'all.